Spring is here, and as the weather warms across the US, many consumers will be leaving their homes and hitting the stores with greater frequency. But what is their mindset and what will be motivating them as they shop in store or through various digital platforms? Welcome to Store Brands Spotlight. I'm Greg Sleater, Executive Editor of Store Brands. Joining me is Ranjana Choudhry, Senior Vice President of Media and Data Platforms at Inmar Intelligence. Ranjana and I will be discussing the results of Inmar's recent Spring Predictions Report, which spoke with consumers about their spring shopping expectations. Ranjana, welcome to the podcast.
How do you do, Greg? Thank you for having me. I look forward to talking to you about spring. It's always great to talk about spring.
It's our pleasure, and as the old cliche goes, hope springs eternal. So I know the weather is warming in some parts of the country, and in others they're fighting through winter's last grasp. But the weather, at least where I am in Pennsylvania, is starting to warm a little bit, so that's a nice thing. And then that gets people out of the house and shopping even more. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to hear what Inmar has found in its report. So, Ranjana, to start with, the report notes that although inflation is decreasing some, consumers are still facing some high prices. This continued price sensitivity, how is that shaping consumer behavior as we head into spring?
Very interesting question, Greg, because, as the saying goes, spring is far from the changing of seasons. It's really the rebirth of the spirit. So even while the inflation is easing and consumer price consciousness is still pretty much predominant, however, it's not dimming their desire to spend because it is now changing from just price consciousness to a value shopping. Okay? They're looking to make sure that they do buy choose the products which are relevant for them. And now suddenly there are new things, new categories that they want to buy into. And sometimes when you're doing that, it's less about the price and more about the value that they're getting out of it, particularly amongst the younger consumer. There's a whole trend which is about little treats that they're looking for, and they're willing to pay a little extra for that, even though they'll cut on some of the other categories which are more commoditized. They're willing to spend a little bit more on the so-called little luxuries that they can get.
We've seen consumers, especially in January and February, after what was a pretty robust holiday season, grab their wallets a little tighter and maybe slow spending, which is not unexpected. There's only so much money out there for people to spend. But as we transition into spring, and with that as the backdrop, is there some key messaging or promotions that will resonate with shoppers as we transition into seasons that may kind of spur their spending a little bit?
Absolutely. I think coming out of this holiday spending freeze, consumers are mostly eager to refresh their routines. And when they're talking about that, the messaging should tap into themes of renewal, discovery, and seasonal relevance. For example, spring refresh bundles, which include fresh fruits and home essentials and wellness products. Even personalized promotions where the digital coupons are based essentially on your past purchase habits, but you're actually talking about limited time spring exclusives that create urgency and excitement. And we've seen this, in the retail environment. It just is abundance of these coming together of different categories and cross-selling, which truly takes off at this time.
In their report, did consumers give you any insight? And you touched on value versus price. Did they give you any insight in terms of their appetite or desire to look for products sold under retail brands, private brands versus national brands?
Absolutely. I think there is this constant, we've seen a pretty strong constant move towards privatized brands. However, as you look at it, that growth is somewhat plateauing, right? It is signaling a shift, slightly nuanced approach to where consumers are selectively trading up to national brands, especially where they perceive, again, a strong value proposition. even whether it is superior quality or even innovative features, and which is slightly tough for private label brands to do. But when any kind of ethical sourcing, which is again an important component for the younger consumer of today. So brands can capitalize on this by clearly communicating that unique benefit, which justifies that slight premium on the pricing.
One of the things I think is interesting, and we've heard this in a number of places, is variety versus loyalty, and how variety is more important. Consumers are shopping at multiple places, not just being loyal to one specific retailer. With that in mind, how can retailers adapt to this increasing diversification of where consumers are buying their products, and how can they, capture more of that wallet when those consumers are in their stores?
Yeah, as we call it, the exploration friendly shopping experience, right? It is becoming big. But I think some of the strategies that one need to think about is number one, rotating assortment. Which is seasonal flavors and limited time exclusives. The limited time exclusives can become quite a range. In fact, have the ability to go viral. We've seen so many brands literally riding on that trend. The second, which I talked about earlier, is I talked about bundling, but also cross merchandising to introduce shoppers to new categories, right? And pairing, for example, trending snacks with beverages. So you kind of bring like-minded brand philosophies across categories, of course, adjacencies, and which are relevant. Also, I would say an important one in today's AI-driven world, leverage AI-driven recommendations, to personalize the suggestions and push the relevant product discovery online and via the loyalty apps.
It's interesting that you talked about that discovery, and we've seen more retailers, especially with their private label products, do seasonal programs. I think about in the fall, Trader Joe's put something out probably in September, and it was just an endless assortment of pumpkin and in all different forms. So we're seeing retailers kind of use their private label assortments to do some of that, and create that immediacy. If I don't go get it now, it's going to be gone in a week. So we do see some of that, which is interesting. Kind of along that lines, in the survey, 78% of shoppers, and I thought this was a big number, said they're willing to abandon a preferred brand for a better price. Again, that strategy for retailers to maintain customer loyalty, do they need to do more? And I know you just mentioned a couple of things, but I think they get so focused on their loyalty programs. What else can they do to keep shoppers there and not, keep their eyes from wandering, if you will?
Yeah, so I think loyalty actually plays at two levels. One is in the brain, which is where the discount works. The second one is in the heart, and which is the affinity that I can build towards the brand. Whether it's a retail brand or a CPG brand, it doesn't matter. But trying to go beyond just the discounts to maintain the loyalty is critical. For example, focusing on experiential perks. It's like early access to products or exclusive content that can be provided to them. VIP tiered benefits that create deeper emotional loyalty. I mean, it's like some of the brands would give just the top 30 most loyal brands exclusive benefits and perks. Those are the kind of things that can maintain that. And of course, back to that last point that I mentioned in the previous section, which is AI-driven personalization, where you can actually tailor the promotion past, based on their past behavior, ensuring that it literally fuels relevant offers. Now, again, offers is not necessarily just pricing; it could even be cross promotions of items. It could even be free trial offers that could be incentivizing those people. And then enhancing the omni-channel engagement. It's critical. It's so critical because if we have to make loyalty come to life, loyalty has to extend seamlessly across in-store, online, and multiple touch points. If a consumer has a bad experience on any one of these channels, there's a major ding on their loyalty. So all three things need to be thought through.
Ranjana, you brought up cross merchandising a couple of times. My initial thought as somebody who's in Gen X is in store cross merchandising, but even the use of AI and how from a digital standpoint you can pull different items together or put something in front of a consumer that matches an item they buy all the time. I feel like cross merchandising is an underutilized tool now. You don't see it as much as you used to see it, whether it's in person or on an app. It's interesting because it was always such an effective tool, throughout the history of retail. But I don't think you see it as much as you probably should.
And Greg, the funny part is you're 100% right. Firstly, it is one of the best tools we can have. It's underutilized, which basically means immense potential because we know it's going to result in something better. And second, now we have a tool with Gen AI that can actually develop those I would say combinations so much more precisely because it understands the consumer across multiple data points and tells you exactly what would fit. So that accuracy of the recommendation is so much more. And by the way, I'll also tell you, we used to sit and brainstorm what should we combine with what. AI can actually generate 50 other ideas for you that would take you days to come up with. So it's like incredible possibilities out there.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think part of that too. When you get into loyalty, I think there's always so much focus on the cost of the item or how could you make it more attractive for what consumers are spending. I think one factor that retailers get lost and where the cross merchandising plays in this is time. If the store can cross merchandise two products in a spot and it saves me 5 minutes from having to go find the second item, that's a value to me as an individual. It's time. It doesn't cost you anything and it doesn't mean you got to change a price. You're making it easier on the shopper. And I think sometimes in loyalty, retailers forget the time saving component of what they can do to help the shopper be more efficient in how they buy their products. And I think that gets lost a little bit too.
And I'll add another piece. Another piece to that, besides time, is the emotional hook that happens because many times shoppers forget certain elements. But when they see them bundled together, they put it and they say, oh, this place is so much easier to shop. So my heart is much more involved now versus just my head.
Very true. Yeah, the heartstrings is always a good thing. So, and that's how you do build loyalty. So that's an interesting aspect of that. The report, Ranjana, mentioned that discover-driven shopping is on the rise. Can you define that for us?
Discovery driven shopping is all about um, whether it is deliberate or unexpected discovery. Literally, the new generation, millennials, who are now overtaking the boomer as a cohort in terms of numbers, or Gen Zers who are coming right on the heels, and Gen Alpha who's coming on their heels, they are constantly on media, social media, where they are bombarded by these unexpected categories that they come up with. Okay? And that discovery driven shopping, because that is why social commerce is taking off so much, because I'm in a comfortable space and I suddenly chance upon a product and I say, oh, never thought of that. And I have the time because I'm currently in a browsing, lean forward mode. It's easier to find that. And I think that is what discovery driven shopping is all about, the tendency to explore, sample, and experiment with new products, new categories during, and if you're talking spring, seasonal transitions. There are various opportunities that brands have to capture, on these trial shoppers. You can offer them low risk sampling opportunities, whether it is BOGOs or smaller pack sizes. I mean, we, as a retailer in my past life, we used to do a lot of this discovery. And the moment you get that chip in the consumer's mouth, you've now got them hooked on that taste and say, oh my God, that's a ball and basket product. I must go back for that. So getting that small pack in their hand is no skin off our back, but it gets the customer feeling that much good. And also, this is one place, as I said, social media plays a big role, and influencer marketing and creator partnerships are incredibly relevant and useful over here because they introduce the products in a very authentic and engaging way. No advertising, no cell deck can tell them that. When an influencer is in their identifiable environment and it's, he or she is using it, you want to try it. And again, the AI powered recommendations, again, AI can surface new product suggestions within the retail apps, within the websites, and all that. And here you can actually take the influencer content and extend it right there. So you're giving it a suggestion, but quickly feed it with the credibility of an influencer content. So there are lots of ways in which you can drive that.
And that's interesting. And again, using some of those old school retail techniques, sampling and things like that, but now taking them digital and incorporating artificial intelligence. So you've instead of segregating the tools in the toolbox, put all the tools together and use them. So yeah, that's very interesting. The social media thing, and again, social media is nothing new, and TikTok to me is a little newer. I discovered that about a year ago. And it's true when you see some of that marketing. Now, I don't buy things. I buy one. There's one or two things I bought that I thought were interesting, but the presentation of it, that it's a sales pitch without feeling like a sales pitch, and I think it's a brilliant way of doing it. I don't see enough of the bigger retailers doing it. I see a lot of these either individuals or smaller companies who have really figured it out and offer something that may or may not be unique, but they get you to watch for a minute. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
As we head into spring, as we've been talking about, 85% of consumers said they're more likely to try something new in the spring. What drives that desire for so many people to try something new?
Yeah, it's because spring is far more than changing of the season, right? It's a lovely reminder of how beautiful change can be. And that is I would say, a unanimous kind of feeling that people have when they are entering spring. So one is you're emotionally set in a certain mind frame. There is a feeling that you want to refresh your routines, and much like January 1st, you want to change your diet. You want to change your personal care habits, because I've heard so many people talking about, oh my God, spring's here. I got to get into shape. I need to get into my swimsuits. So, it's a lot of things that people start thinking about, and a lot of new categories that they start thinking about, because it's about warmer weather, outdoor activities, social gatherings, traveling, which is many product categories for trial, right? It's fresh foods, it's beverages, it's beauty, it's health. And a lot of retailers can actually encourage trial by featuring those seasonal exclusives. You just talked about pumpkin, and you're talking about spring, and you talk about the pastel colors and that palette for clothing or for makeup, or even fresh foods. When you're talking about spring, you're ready to come out of the hot foods to actually start experiencing fruits and salads and colorful fruits. So that's another big one. And running digital rebates or cashback programs at this time to reward trials is an amazing way to actually hook the customer into your category.
So we've talked a lot about some sexy things, AI and digital technology. And then the report says that destination departments, bakery, deli, and produce, not exactly the sexiest parts of the store, but those are the ones that drive the repeat trips. Are retailers doing enough to leverage these departments? And is there more that they can do to put those departments more in front of consumers with either new products or deals or whatever it is? Because if those are the ones that are truly driving them back to the store, maybe highlight them more.
100% right. And I think that the smart retailers are actually building on that, because, again, as a retailer in my past life, I can tell you our conversations were all about the moment you enter, the first thing you should see is heaps of fresh food. Because one, it is color. Two, freshness speaks to a feeling of quality. And three, when you're coming in, there's a wafting fragrance and again, delights your senses when you're looking at fresh foods versus cans and boxes and packages. So That's absolutely so. Whether you like it, whether you want it, you just walk through that, and some of your tension is alleviated. The second thing, when you're talking about bakery has a psychological impact on anybody. Whether you eat or whether you're on a diet, whether whatever, if you smell baking bread or baking cakes, or if you see actual decorations on cake going on, something happens subconsciously in your mind. Something. You just get magnetically pulled to it and you want to get it. You'll say, no, it's for my kids, not for me, but of course, it's for everybody. But those are the ways in which, when you talk about bakery, a lot more open workspace, a space where you can see the wafting of the fragrance. And even if you're not, artificially spread the baking smell into the store. So no matter which corner you are at, that smell, and you can do that through artificial mechanisms of wafting fragrances. Absolutely, you can do that. So I think all these departments, and Delhi again, because it's cold meat, and again, it's meat that is pleasing to the eye. So when you're arousing the senses, I have to tell you, it's not just those brands or those categories that sell. It puts the person in a mood to buy more.
Yeah, keep the chocolate chip cookies baking, and you'll make people happy. So they might not even necessarily want to buy the cookies, but it is a very positive smell. So that's interesting, and it's funny too. You get a lot of the psychology of this more than the factual. Looking at a box or the physical nature of shopping, the psychology behind it too. I think sometimes gets a little overwashed by the technology and things like that, but it all plays into itself. So,
Yeah, and
um,
then top it with actually making them eat it.
right.
So doing some demos.
Doing some demos, yeah. Costco on a Saturday. So, as a friend of mine said, you can eat your way through the store. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Ranjana, the report also highlighted this interesting fact too, and we talked about the price quality thing a little earlier. That 60% of consumers are looking beyond price and considering other factors, quality and unique features, and then the brand trust. Do you have some examples of brands or retailers that have shifted that value proposition somewhat and are meeting these consumer expectations?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of smart brands, and successfully, they're doing a lot of fun stuff. I mean, I'll give you one of the CPG brands, like for example, Chobani. It's a yogurt, and then 500 other kinds of yogurts. But if you position that as a snack, you go beyond the functionality of it, because now you're talking about high protein wellness product. And suddenly now you're justifying its premium pricing, because you know what? I'm not buying yogurt. I'm buying a snack that is giving me all the protein I need to go back and exercise today. It's adding to my number of proteins that I'm buying through the day. So it's a wellness thing. On the other hand, if I go to a retailer, you've got Trader's Joe. Now, you talked about their pumpkin strategy, their private label strategy, I mean, is like incredible, right? It focuses on unique flavors. It talks about specialty products. I mean, it's got a whole range for Asian products, right? So you've got, here's some Chinese range, here's some Indian, here's some sushi and Japanese products that you have, or, it appeals very clearly to the shopper who needs a very specific item and doesn't need to go to 10 other places or a specialty store to buy it. It's in my regular store. And more important, I'm constantly engaged, because now, today I'm trying this, tomorrow I want to try that. But it's the value that they're bringing by bringing those specialty products into the market, not just seasonal flavors, but oriented to, again, customer needs. So the moment you build those offerings based on customers' needs and you're solving a problem, I'm hooked. Right?
Yeah, and as consumer preferences continue to evolve, and we're seeing Gen Z play a bigger role, seemingly on a daily basis, in what stores are carrying or what they're going to buy. How to read this is probably this is the $64,000 question. Ultimately, is how do retailers balance that need to provide competitive pricing, but also emphasize the differentiation in what they offer versus their competitor up the street?
Yeah. So this will always be a conundrum. This is not a new one. It's been from the day selling started. But I think with the kind of data and the kind of technology we have, there are ways of better understanding tiers of segments. Right? You can clearly create cohorts and say, here's a segment which is a lot more inclined to premium. For example, let's go back to what we were talking about, the product values. Seventh generation has built trust through sustainability messaging. It's appealing to a value driven consumer who's willing to pay a premium for eco friendly products. Now, why am I paying a 40% or 50% premium for a dish cleaning product? Why? I'm doing it because there's a certain segment who's looking for that eco-friendliness versus just the cleaning attributes. So now suddenly I have people who are saying, you know what, I just need cleaning. I'm going to give it to my cleaning person who's going to just do it. I don't need to worry about it. It's a soap is a soap is a soap. But then there's others who are not talking about the soap because they expect everything to clean, but they expect you to do the best out of it. So creating those segments helps you actually do the pricing strategy better. The second thing I would say is educating the customer on product benefits, because advertising is one way, but not every brand, especially the new and somewhat niche brands, need to be able to tell that. So in store, which for I don't know how many hundreds of years has been one of the most important message areas, talking about 0 point of truth. So in-store signage, and now finding QR codes, which you can scan, because half the customers today are walking around with their mobile phone. So scan that QR code and better understand what that is. And frankly, that QR code could actually lead you directly into digital content, which highlights the differentiation or brings up that influencer marketing video, which actually shows you why they prefer that product to 10 others. And who cares if I'm paying 20 cents or 50 cents more on that one? So, and of course, things like health benefits. People now are willing to discount and disregard pricing. So those could be ways of premiumization, and then leveraging personalized discounts instead of blanket price cuts. Why don't we target promotions to the right audience and reward the engagement rather than just erode the brand equity by saying, okay, we are on discount by 20% to all in sundry. If we know there's a certain segment who's very price sensitive and clearly is a strong loyal customer, send them a coupon or a promotion that would be healthier.